Oh, I can.
Hello. Hello. Welcome to our presentation with Christina Garcia. Now, I'm Gary Gonzer. I'm the host of this presentation, our spotlight for November. And what I do is help with setting this up and facilitating the programs that we do. So it's very interesting work. Okay, today we have Christina. Okay. Christina Garcia. Okay.
I can't see you.
They want me to be on camera.
Candid.
And I like to do this kind of on the fly. So, only problem is I can't see you. Okay, Christina Garcia is a California Pomo native, and she traces her powerful path driven by a deep yearning and unwavering commitment to uplifting Native visibility in Marin County. Her journey began at Terra Linda High School and expanded through the College of Marin and Dominican College, where she established a landmark legacy as the inaugural Native student at both institutions to receive the prestigious Federated Grayton Rancheria and Maria Copa scholarships. Hear how she leverages her living experience and deep expertise, not to mention her education and her relationship to her family and her tribe. Looking at the established Marin powwow at College of Marin campus. How many people attended the powwow that was here? Wasn't that amazing? It was. We have two more at least. That was the first annual for us. So she was deeply involved with that. And she wants to translate her vision for the campus into a reality. Her current work provides the Native perspective required to weave right relations, ensuring all efforts are firmly grounded in the principle of reciprocity, and hence her company, Weaving Relations. So help me welcome Christina Garcia.
Xiaohui. That's thank you in Northern Pomo for having me be your spotlight presenter today. It's an honor and a gift to be able to share my story with you guys. I'm Christina Garcia. My tribe comes from Sherwood, Pomo. I'm an alumni at Terra Linda High. I'm going to see if I can get this to stay put. Is that better? No. Okay. College of Marin and Dominican University. I also recently founded Weaving Relations Consulting, where I bring this educational expertise. And my big client right now is College of Marin. And I'm going to walk you guys through my journey. But first, I have a question for you. How many of you learned about the Holocaust as a form of genocide when you were in your primary or secondary education? Right? That was not the narrative that I experienced with Indigenous people, with the missions. That was not how Thanksgiving was portrayed. It was portrayed in a way that made it seem like America had done them a favor or that they were saving them, but that was not accurate. It was also a form of genocide. So, my lived experience navigating education was painful. I would hear these things about Thanksgiving, and I was made to make a model, and it just didn't feel right. I didn't feel comfortable speaking out about it because I'm a kid, right? And these are the educators, and this is the narrative that they were portraying to me. I was somewhat disconnected from my community. My father and I had an estranged relationship. His mother is on the res, and so I didn't feel native enough when I would go to school. So I didn't always claim my heritage. I felt just off in that way because if I did mention it, I would get uncomfortable questions like, what kind of Indian are you? Are you a feather or a dot? I found that to be really harmful and really just inappropriate. So I kind of shut down. There's also just this idea that you have to be enrolled into a tribe to be native. That's also false. And blood quantum and all of that is also a form of genocide. Lineal descendants are just as much native. Mixed descendancy is still native, and it shouldn't be rooted in that. So, needless to say, I got in a lot of trouble in high school because I got a little mouthy and I got pretty fed up with some of what I was hearing. Um, and luckily for me, I transferred to College of Marin, and that started to shift. Apparently, I forgot to click my slides as I was talking about the missions. And so apologies for that. I'm used to having a clicker, but we're just going to roll with having the mouse. So this is representation of the missions, how they were forced to cut their hair, not allowed to speak their languages. Here's a little wounded knee for you guys. So College of Marin was the first campus in Marin County that I actually saw something that had representation of the land whose people we are on. Now, most of you have been on this campus, and I would guess that most of you don't know where that plaque is. It's really quite a challenge to find. But that was the first time I was like, huh, okay, there's something here. I had professors in my native anthropology class that did a pretty decent job at empowering me to learn more about other native tribes. So the one that I chose was Coast Miwok because that's the land whose people we were on, and it didn't feel right to do my own people. So I sought out to find people that were Coast Miwok, and I did at the Marin Indian Alliance. Well, actually, I was at a different event, but then they invited me to their space. And that kind of started my journey about self identification, that it was okay to be mixed and that I had the blood. And I found community. I found a mentor. Many of you may know her story, Sasheen Littlefeather. She was instrumental to my journey. She gave me tools and resources to go back to my own tribe, get the documentation that I needed to show that I was who I was. And she told me to finish my education and to go back and to empower my people and to not let anybody tell me no. And she was quite a spitfire. She would kind of get on my case if I wasn't moving to her speed. Um, so I'm going to College of Marin and I'm taking these classes. US history was quite painful here. I was, to my knowledge, the only Native person in that class. So I found myself to be maybe expected to be an expertise by my peers, and that was uncomfortable. Nobody is an expert on all populations of people, like nobody holds that kind of knowledge. And so that was one of the first times where I realized that it's just I didn't want to be known for that, right? Like I didn't want people to expect me to answer a question just because I'm from that community. I really struggled with some of that. And throughout it, I utilized a lot of College of Marin's programs, their EOPS, their SAS. I found that I had to join Emoja because there was no Native learning community. There was no student club for me to join. But again, like I was able to find community through the Alliance, through Emoja, through some of the professors that like I still have really close relationships to, even today, like all this time later. So in 2022, here's some photos of me graduating with all of my offsprings. And I applied for a scholarship. I had received some from Emoja and one through EOPS, and it was the Federated Grayton Scholarship. And I was told that I was the first one to ever receive it. And I thought that was kind of wild because I'm a non-traditional student and it was the year 2022 and that scholarship had been endowed for decades and nobody before me had gotten it. I was both honored and deeply disturbed by that. How did that happen? Like how do we fix this? Because I'm not the first Native student to ever go to this institution. Like, how did this happen? Right. So I spent some time with the scholarship program after I graduated. I had talked with people from 10,000 Degrees, where I'm also an alumni, about how to fix that. And then when I was in the middle of transferring, an opportunity at the Marin Indian Alliance board opened up, and I was approached and asked to give a resume and go through this whole process. And at first I was like, are you guys sure? Like I've never been on a nonprofit board before. But they were sure. And I joined the board as their secretary in 2022. And we had the great idea of hosting a Marin powwow because Marin did not have any powwows and there was very little events that happened. There was, a harvest festival that happened at the Novato Museum somewhat infrequently, and there was just a deep need. So we began to fill that need. Um, and again, I arrived at Dominican and there was no student club to join, but there was an Indigenous partnership circle with faculty and other Native nonprofits that I got to share my experience as a student and to be able to begin to bring Indigenous Peoples Day event to their campus. We did a thing on Good Fire with the Kosmiwak Tribal Council and other community partners. And my educational journey ironically led me to like have this community and get in touch with my ancestral roots. I started going to places like Stafford and harvesting tule, and I was a part of this boat launch. That's me on the completed boat launch. I think it was in 2023. The timeline of the last few years have just been so incredibly busy, and this wasn't exactly the career path that I saw myself in, but it's one that I believe my ancestors laid for me. Why else am I the first at both of the institutions to ever do this? Why, when I joined the powwow or the Marin Indian Alliance, did we start throwing a powwow? I have been at the epicenter of so many of these things in this county, and that's crazy. because I didn't get to grow up with this kind of culture. But I joined the DEI committee at my kid's school in the month of November. Their committee wanted a district-wide land acknowledgement. And I was like, all right. So I start petitioning their board and I start working with the Coast Miwok Tribal Council. And I was met with a lot of resistance, and that was challenging. Why wouldn't we want to acknowledge that these schools are on burial grounds? Like, the kids should know that. They should know where they are and that they're on a sacred site when they're attending school here. And so that year we moved the powwow to the Miller Creek School. And I was like, hey, you're not going to get better PR than this. And so they adopted it. And from there, I joined Redbud as their first cohort of Native educators. That's me with some other California natives learning about the California genocide and getting more resources to work with educators that wanted to learn more, or even just becoming one myself. There's a photo from my Marin IJ article when I was in the process of graduating. After I had received the Maria Coppa Scholarship, they put me in the newspaper and did this whole article about me. And that was a trippy experience. I'd go around places and people would recognize me from the newspaper. And um, one of them even asked for my autograph. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Um, I did it anyway, but it was just like, okay. And I was a part of the Marin Pomos Society. I started weaving, not, the best basket person by any means, but I started connecting in a way that wasn't possible for me. Like, so much of if my previous education experience, I felt less than and not a part of, like, college changed all of that for me. And it started here at Marin, the College of Marin, sorry. I started attending events at Dominican with other people in Native education and all of that, to say that my undergrad work was, again, from my lived experience. Like, I started learning about intergenerational trauma. I started learning about historical trauma. I started wondering and asking, like, why is it that we talk about reparations for Black people? Why is it that we talk about Holocaust survivors, but we're not talking about the Native people of this Turtle Island, this home that we all call? So I did my undergrad study on reparation support for Indigenous people. It's the first of its kind. I got to present it at the WPA. It'll be published in Google Scholar in the next couple months. I met a Canadian Indigenous woman at a different kind of event, and that was really, really powerful. And all the while, I still don't know what I'm going to do when I graduate. People are like, oh, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't really know if the dream job exists for me yet. So I'm applying to all these different places and nothing's really happening. By the way, this is our Native student president, Forrest. She's a current student at College of Marin. I've known her for many, many years, but she has launched the first Four Directions Native Club. It just had its first meeting. So that's super exciting for this year at the College of Marin. So I did this program called NAMC. It's Native American Museum Institutes. And we went around to all the different museums, art places, things of that nature. And again, what I experienced was huge. I got to see how the California Academy of Sciences had changed how they're doing things. They came to the indigenous people of the land and asked them, what is it that you want to contribute to our exhibit? What is it that you want to be paid for? That's not something that has been in practice. Normally it's like, this is our honorarium and what can you get, it was a very different narrative. And they allow Native people like myself and others to come and interact with these belongings. You may have heard them called artifacts, but that was part of what this institution was about, is changing that, because they're not artifacts, they are not dead. These items that were woven and created, they have spirit. You can feel it when you touch them and when you interact with them. And it's not doing them any service to be in a box somewhere, right? Like, they need to be enjoyed and touched. And that again changed so much for me. Some of the elders and the aunties that were in this community, they're like, watch, now that you've touched this, everything is going to change for you. Things are going to start picking up. And I just shook my head. Okay, we'll see. This is one of our professors, Dwayne Big Eagle. He was at our Harvest Fest. So that woman was right. I touched those baskets and I was doing these things in our community where, we were throwing powwows. I got to bring it to all of these campuses that are like very meaningful to me, right? Like Terra Linda, I was an alumni there. I can't describe to you what it felt like to bring my culture and my community onto that campus when it was so sorely lacking when I was there, but it was such a gift. And then to do it again last year with the College of Marin, and building that has been so amazing. I was nominated in 2014, or was it 24? Yeah, in 24 through 10,000 Degrees as a change maker for the work that I've done in this community, and I was honored as a semifinalist. Here is me, the Crystal Martinez. She's on the board of trustees at College of Marin. And that was a beautiful gala, also a surreal experience where I got to be honored for what I had done. I didn't do any of these things for a thank you or for any of that. I did that because I saw gaps that needed to be filled. I have kids that I want to have a different experience than I had growing up. And as a result of all the efforts, like, my kids have such a different experience. I got to bring in assemblies and drum with other women at their schools, and they got to like share who they were. And all of that, all of that started right here on this campus, seeing a plaque, taking an anthro class, and going to meet the community. And fast forward, it's turned into something that's fundamentally changed the county. It's like kind of crazy to think about the ripple effects on how just one interaction, one chance meeting with someone can literally change like all the lives around you. But that was my experience. Most of these next slides are just from the powwow. This is one of College of Marin's ethnic studies professor, Eddie Madrill. He is the faculty advisor for our Native Student Club. So these are all just like photos. I'll just kind of click as I'm talking to you guys. But the nature of my work now is being that voice, making recommendations, suggestions on how to enrich this campus, how to support these Native students who maybe like myself, they're struggling with self-identification. Maybe they found out through ancestry that they're Native, but they don't know. Maybe they were adopted. Maybe their tribe lost federal recognition. It really doesn't matter, but how do we make them self-identify? How do we make them feel seen and heard and valued, that it's safe to be Indigenous, that it's not something that you have to hide anymore. So many of our relatives pretended to be Hispanic so they would not be harmed. And we're trying not to cry today, but it's a big thing to be that voice and be that advocate. I often find myself like maybe second guessing myself, like, who am I to do all of this? But it always comes back to who am I not to? Like, if I don't, I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm doing the people that this could benefit a disservice. So some of the work that's happening at the College of Marin, as you may or may not know, we're having a centennial celebration, and we were given the most generous gift by one of the most incredible Native artists and elders that I've ever met. I've had the pleasure of interviewing him, and the article will come out. You guys will be able to check that out in the next few months. But he's going to be giving the College of Marin a beautiful sculpture, and we're gonna have this learning landscape where this campus will looks and feel so much different. It'll have authentic made by natives. You'll hear language and QR codes. You'll see art. There will be just the campus is going to look so much different over the next few years. And, you know, like I mentioned, we have the student club that are hosting events, and we've done some panels where we've had people from the community come and share their experience. We're getting ready to host this powwow next year. I hope we get to have an Indigenous Peoples Day celebration. And I have no idea how I'm doing on time. How am I doing on time? I don't see. I forget, how long do I go for? And I'm at 1:30. Okay. Yeah. So what didn't I cover? Oh, I will say that the thing that I appreciate and value the most about College of Marin specifically is they've done it backwards. Most schools will throw up a placeholder land acknowledgement just to click the box that they did it. College of Marin has worked backwards in the sense that they have yet to put out their land acknowledgement, but have built meaningful, long-standing relationships with Great Inn, with the Marin Indian Alliance, and with the community. And bringing me on to do this work is a big part of that, right? Because you're having an authentic Native person who is an alumni at the school to do that, right? They didn't bring in someone else. They brought in me, which is what it's supposed to be when you're building these relationships, and you want you want that authentic, no pretend we're just going to throw up a land acknowledgement. It's real what they're building with the all of the tribes in the area. They're willing to listen and learn, and I just couldn't be more pleased with the progress that we've been able to make in such a short time. Some interesting, I don't know if I mentioned, but since I received the inaugural scholarship, we've awarded it every year to students since, and this year the amount of applicants was I believe it was like 50 students or something like that. Like, it was a crazy bigger number because we're talking about it, because there's visibility, because, you know, it was written in the newspaper, and I'm running to everybody and I'm being like, hey, we have a scholarship here, come apply. And we got to do a lot of groundwork in the scholarship cycles. They used to happen in the spring, and now they happen in the fall, which benefits your first year students. And that's something that brings me great joy. I would not have been able to transfer to Dominican without that funding. So to know how that gift has benefited these other students and how it'll empower their educational journey, like, I can't wait to hear about it, because I know that wherever they go, I'll hear what it is that they've accomplished. My educational journey is far from done. I'm in the midst of applying to UC Davis Native Studies. When I'm done with that, I plan to teach Native Studies, ethnic studies as a Native person. Hopefully, God willing, I'll get to do it here, along with the long-term goals of having NASP, which most of you probably don't know what that is, but it's a Native American support pilot program through the chancellor's office. That's, I want to say it's year 4 out of 5. Out of all of the 116 community colleges, only 20 got the original pilot funding. College of Marin wasn't selected for that for yet, but it's my goal for them to see and hear of what College of Marin is doing and taking the initiative and getting that funding so that we could have more resources, more dedicated faculty, more support students for the students. A lot of the people that the organizations that have the funding now, they've been able to do just the most incredible things. They've had bridge programs where they bring the students to all of the surrounding colleges that have strong Native programs. They get an iPad or a laptop when they're done of this 5-day thing. They get to do cultural activities. All of them have strong mentorship programs, book grants. They get access to different resources that, that funding is critical in getting. Another thing that will be happening probably 2026, we'll have something on the website that talks about the land that we're on, that talks about the events that we're hosting. And because right now that's a missing component. Right now, if there's students that maybe don't live in the area and they go to the College of Marin website, they're not going to see that we host a powwow here. They don't see that we have a club that's doing events. They don't see that we had Greg Saris come and do his book presentation. They don't see the things that we've done all yet. But when we get that up, they can see as far back as we want them to. Oh, we hosted a powwow. We did this. We've been doing all of these things so that when students are considering where they should go to school and they are mixed like myself, or maybe they're whatever, they'll see this place as a place where they can thrive and grow, uh, instead of just like finding the plaque on the ground or what have you. Yeah. That is my Emoja mentor, Colleen Mihal. I still get to collaborate with her. We're going to have an Indigenous presenter that's a colleague of mine come and talk about mapping genocide at their Equity and Mental Health Symposium. So is a really big honor of mine to be able to connect those two and to have that in that space coming up. Um, Here is my little one and my parents at the powwow. And I think this was like the committee dance. And our chairwoman and our president. Yes, Mary Kitchens. And of course, invitation for you all to come and save the date. I feel like I might have missed some pieces. It's odd, trying to describe everything that led you to where you are, because it was not a linear journey. My journey was very like plot twist, this is going on, and then this, and so I hope I didn't miss any of the big points, but that is essentially a lot of the things that led me to be here celebrating this Heritage Month with you. Is just a very painful experience in education prior, and having higher education help facilitate my healing and my comfortability in my identity as an Indigenous person, and overcoming that stigma and that shame, and being more visible, and how walking that walk, created such change in this county, to a point where, I was nominated as a change maker. I got to be in the newspaper, and now I'm working with the College of Marin on all of these incredible, exciting things that weren't on the radar before I was on the scene. And all of that brings pride to the ancestors and the relatives that came before me. And it brings hope and change for the ones that are yet to come, or currently walking halls somewhere, maybe not feeling seen or heard or whatever. And so that is that is essentially it in a nutshell. So thank you for listening. I can't wait to hear your curious questions. And yeah.
Thank you, Christina. The journey. Okay, this is a question and answer period. So I'm going to take this microphone to you if you have a question. And if you could please wait to ask your question until you get the microphone in front of you. That way, the people online who are viewing this episode or this session will be able to hear your question. So please raise your hand if you have a question for Christina.
Thank you very much for sharing your story. I have to say, my preconceived notion, not knowing anything about you, I thought you were going to be in your 50s or 60s, honestly. Makes me extra sad to see how recent this is that you've had to push, or any Native American population has had to push to have representation today. So I admire your push and your drive. My question is, looking at the photos you shared of all the Native American traditions at the powwow, where are the centers? I know families pass down traditions, but where are the centers for these youth to go to be with other youth to continue these traditions? Living in Marin, I don't know of any. I mean, we have the Miwok Museum in Novato. That's where I live. That's about all I know about a center of history, even for that culture.
Well, I feel your pain. That was part of why we started doing the powwow in the first place, right? Because so many of the people that are raising children in Marin County that are Native, there isn't a place where we can go learn dance or connect in. I mean, there is and there isn't, right? Like, we could go out on the land and Point Reyes. There used to be places that we would go and gather, but those were shut down. So for my kids and I, we would go to the mission in the city, and we would go to the American Indian cultural center, and we would learn powwow dance there. And like, we had to drive, and there was so many other families in the same position. There was families that were driving from San Jose, from parts of the East Bay. So it's a commitment, right? But it does mean a drive. We could have driven up north and learned dance with the Sonoma County Dance Group. They meet a few times a week, or we could drive into the city and do the other one. And for us, like, my kids are also deep in the baseball dance era of their lives. So the one in the city just happened to work better for our extracurricular schedules. But to my knowledge, there isn't that. There's quite a few gaps that are missing in Marin. We don't have an Indian health the way that Sonoma County does. There's a few of those things that, again, it's like, I'm only one person. I've advocated, and I've had the uncomfortable talks with the equity team at the Health and Human Services, and I was like, hey, You know, you're not talking about tribal TANF here. Why? If Grayton offers it, you should have some signage. People should know when they come to hear that there's this resource if they're Indigenous. And that was a year ago. There's no signage. Nothing has changed. Oh, I hope that answers your question though. It's a drive. Yeah, it's a drive if you want to do that. But I will say though, the Marin powwow, we do workshops before our powwow leading up to for people to learn like powwow dance and like ribbon skirt makings and stuff, but it feels very seasonal to, you know, it's not like a year round thing because capacity, right? But you know, we're doing our best to be that gap. You had a question and
It's sort of a question. I go up to Olimpali Park and all the signs, you can't read them. They're falling apart. And a lot of tourists go there and could be educated about the land and what Indians were there, the plants and so forth. And I've called the Miwok Council about it. No, that's the Pomo's responsibility. And no, that's the park's responsibility. So nothing's being done around education and letting people know more about Indian culture. So I don't know if you have any inroads.
I hear you and it all boil like it's a complicated situation for Marin County specifically, right? We have Grayton whose jurisdiction is Marin County, but you have, you know, the Coast Miwok Tribal Council, there's the Parks and Recs. It's like it's very complicated when you're talking about land and whose responsibility and who needs to hold that. It's my wish that they could all get together and just say, hey, like let's fix this or let's work on this together. But again, I feel like it all just comes down to capacity and maybe budget stuff or who knows. But I think for me, it's even in the framing of right? Like Native people still go there. So it's not even a it's like does that make sense? Like you said, Native people were there, but you know, they still go to those places. They're still interacting with that land. Yeah.
My questions is kind of land use as well. Laird's Landing was stolen from Native people. Any chance you can get it back?
Not my area of expertise. Mine's more education, advocacy, you know, supporting youth, students. I do work with some of these people on specific things, but as far as like the whole land back thing, that's maybe in my or my graduate program, I'll have a better idea of how to go about that. But for now,
That was really beautiful. Thank you. Is Cooley Loklo is still, do they have a center out there? Are they, no. My aunt, helped start that and wasn't it with, didn't they used to have basket weaving with the Pomo here? She did that for years. I think she was exposed to it first here at College Marin a long time ago. And they had really beautiful events. Indigenous food, and, you know, the different plants that were growing nearby and different ways they stored the food. They had, now the powwow was huge, but they used to have Miwok and Pomo dancers. It was really quite beautiful, especially to be on the land where it was. Because I know they had trouble. Do you think it's going to, Cooley Loklo is going to be resurrected?
I know that a lot of community members would love that, but as far as how close anybody is to next steps, that's not something I have any information about. Perhaps.
Christina, thank you. That was really beautiful. And it takes a lot of courage to be seen and to be heard and to be willing to share your story. So thank you for doing that and showing up for everyone here today. I was really struck by a comment you made about the baskets being not being artifacts, right? They have animus, they have spirit, they're beings in a way. And I'm wondering, there's a couple of questions and something I'd like to hear more about your thoughts on, which is history. This is an ongoing project, right? Native people were still here. There's opportunities for healing and connection and weaving the relations and the awareness that you do. And some of the questions that have been brought up here already about how do we, right, have action of signs or places coming back, it starts with awareness and education. And it's also an invitation for everyone here and everyone that you're connected to and the communities that you're connected here with to help people learn how they can actively participate in something that is still very much alive and here, and there's an opportunity for healing. So if you could please share your thoughts on what are ways in which we as residents of this county can take action to actively participate, whether we have Native heritage or we're just trying to get into right relationship with the place that we call home. I would love to hear your thoughts on ways we can take action to do that.
What a loaded question.
Can I say something? Hello? How do I do
Is
this?
that a Zoom people? Is
No,
that
that's
okay if they
that's a
jump
Zoom
in?
person.
Is that okay if she jumps in?
It
Yeah, I can't see anything on
No,
my end over here.
can't do that. Okay.
Wait, I have to.
Yeah, I don't see. Okay, how do I? Stop sharing.
Share, yeah.
I don't see a chat.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. I would say that as far as, sorry, I got a little squirreled with the voice coming out of the abyss and then not coming out of a mouth.
The voice is probably coming from me on chat.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to the question that was answered, and then we can jump to you. Sorry, can you reframe your question? I got totally squirreled.
Part of the healing work that you're leading.
Yeah, coming to the powwow is a big thing. I think for me as well, I see often where there's, let's say, a problem or something where somebody wants to maybe advocate for amphibians or water or whatever. And rather than doing their own research on who to talk to, what steps to take, they'll come to myself or like another Native person and want them to do that. And that feels very backwards, right? If the goal is to, fix the sign, save the waterway, whatever it is, like doing the research or figuring out who would hold that knowledge rather than going to the person from that community is a huge, first step in I think good practice in how to support Native people. This month there's always a lot of asks. Can you come do this? Can you come do that? And it's like it's always in November. And allyship and supporting any community of people should be an everyday thing. It shouldn't be limited to these constructs that we have about a month. It's like this month is charged for us. There's still this happy Thanksgiving. And it's like, yeah, okay. That's one interpretation of it. But, I would say that coming to, the events, learning what you can, supporting Native artists or small owned businesses, like a quick Google search, you can do those things. And like that gives back in a direct and very personal way. So many of the people that are in these communities are like artists, or they make clapper sticks, or they make drums, or they make the little pretty earrings that all of us Native women just wear like armor. And there's so many ways in doing that, but some of it is just kind of doing your own research into how do you do that? Do you find Native authored books, or do you check out some podcasts? If you see an issue at a park or whatever, like, is there a way that you can attend a city council meeting and give them a proposal on like, hey, like I understand that da 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 da, but here's something, or and do it within and in community, I would say. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's kind of just my experience on it. I know for myself it can be challenging because there's always so many different fires to put out, like literally and figuratively. It can be a little stretched thin. And kind of when I mentioned what I did about like the health and human services, like if I had more capacity and bandwidth to be like, hey, why is it that I'm still asking for you guys to put proper representation so that the people who need these services can get it? Like, I can't get in everybody's faces. I can't go back to the Miller Creek School District and say, hey, we did a land acknowledgement. Did you guys do any follow-up work? Did you do your part in what's next? Like, I don't have the capacity to do that, right? But if every person found an area that they were passionate about, or that they had the capacity to do that, maybe more change could happen, because usually the people driving these things are from that community, and you can't be in all the spots. It's like, and my spot right now is here at College of Marin. That's where my big focus is. So I can't be pounding the county office on visibility on this. And I can't, as much as I would love to tell the park people, hey, we need to rename some of these parks, and we need to do all of these bigger projects, but I can suggest that the mapping genocide be brought to the symposium so that maybe more people who have an interest in that can learn more about why we're renaming things, and what steps to be taken. Because nobody can do it all. We're just human.
Christine, we have an online
Yes.
attendee, Mary. If she would unmute herself and ask a question. Yeah, Mary, go ahead and unmute
okay.
yourself, please.
My question, actually, it's a statement, or I want to tell you something about my niece who lives in Longmont, Colorado. She was instrumental in setting up a sister city with a reservation that was, I think, north of the town that they're in, and she's done exchanges with the children in Longmont and the children in the reservation. She said it was painstaking and just really difficult to get it going and have the communication such that everybody understood what was expected and what was going to be happening. But she said it was very, very rewarding. And I had the opportunity to go with her to some of the functions and dances that they had in Longmont. And it was just wonderful for me to be able to observe something like that. But I don't know, we don't have a reservation near us, do we?
In Marin,
Yes.
yeah, the Great Inn has jurisdiction over this area, and there's reses all over the North Bay and California. Yes.
Do the kids have an opportunity to share with children in the reservation, and vice versa, the children in a reservation to share with people who are nothing like them?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hello, Christina.
Yeah, you've got two.
Are you in connection with and working with the Marin Historical Society?
No,
Okay.
not opposed to it, just haven't done anything with them.
Okay. The reason I ask is the director of the Marin Historical Society came to ESCOM looking for docents. Okay. We're an all volunteer organization, and they came to us saying, perhaps you'd like to have your people work as docents for our programs. Now, one particular program that they mentioned was taking history trunks, boxes of historical items to classes, and their grades are third and fourth grades. So they go into the schools and they open the box, pull out the article, for instance, a basket in this case, because there's so much involved with that. Something that has a history to it, and the docent tells the stories, the content, the information about that. Now, they're actively looking for docents, which would be a great opportunity, I think, for you or someone in your people to go out to schools. This would satisfy your initial glaring omission of truthful stories and history within the schools as children grow up. Now, one thing that's of interest is the Board of Supervisors, Marin, just awarded the Marin Historical Society a good amount of money to proceed with this program. So there's funds available if you want to go after them. So here, I'm suggesting, and I can give you information offline. I'll send it to you so you can connect, because it sounds like an opportunity made for the tribe, if you will, for your people to go in and talk about what you talked about today, growing up, living the experience, what it meant to you, and have historical items that you can relate to, that the kids can identify with. And remember, it's a great idea. I don't know if we as ESCOM, being older, would want to do that, but we would do other aspects because they have other programs that they need docents for. But the whole idea of you representing your people or the schools, third and fourth grade, which is really the age where people start putting these ideas together. So just a thought. I can connect with you offline, see if that makes a difference. I'd be glad to help.
Thanks. You had another question? Right here.
Ask what you can do. When I go to websites trying to find Native peoples that are in an organization or whatever that we could support, the first thing that's on their website is donate. Basically, some of them you can't contact. It's just, oh, here's our donate button. So I'm a member of the Episcopal Church, which was very instrumental in boarding schools in the United States.
Mm.
And I brought that fact to the attention of our church, and we decided to learn more. And so we are giving a donation from the collection on the 23rd, Friendship House in San Francisco that serves Native peoples and others around addiction and alcoholism. So that's a start. The next step is to go to the diocese and invite other churches in the diocese, which there's 100, more than 100, to give their collection during Indigenous Month to whatever organization they choose. So that's something that you can do. And you can also volunteer at some organizations as well. Friendship House, for one. I know the Ramaytush Arrow wanted somebody to volunteer there. So there are things that you can do.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that your church is moving in that area of reconciliation and acknowledging what happened. That hasn't been the case, so it's really refreshing to hear you share that. I appreciate hearing that.
Any other questions? Okay, one over here.
Thank you. When there was the mention of the Historical Society here as a possible connection, the light went on in my head. At Point Reyes National Park there is an indigenous items there that were built. Do you ever connect with them or that part of the area here?
Are you talking about like the Felix Cove area or?
Beach in the beach, you know, it's the national park there at Point Reyes under the federal government, and there
Oh.
is an indigenous. Isn't there? Isn't it? Yeah, a village. Isn't it still there? Oh, I didn't know that.
No, I think that's something different. You were talking about Kuli Loklo. That's not a thing, but if she's talking about the house, then that's through the Felix Cove Alliance. Yeah.
To be classes. I don't know if they still. Well, right near, but right near the big headquarters there. Yeah. So I was just wondering if that's not active any longer.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly which.
So I just wanted to say thank you, and I really appreciate your sharing because the diversity is so much. I'm so happy for the diversity of so many different things in different peoples. And I was just going to say the first time when I was very young, I was graduated from high school in '64, but this was when I was in out of high school, maybe 18 or 19. The first time I was never really taught anything about the background except for Thanksgiving, right? That's all. Okay. So I don't know how it came into my hands, but the first book I read was Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. And when I went through that, oh my God, it's just because I didn't know, it was just devastating certain parts of it. And so from then on, slowly I began to do more and more research. And the indigenous are going to be very important in this issue of climate change. Their knowledge will be it's so vital now because they have that, it's so deep, the roots are so deep.
Mhm.
I really am grateful that I did discover in my own way a very deep partners and their perspective. Portuguese group. We live different connection that we all have.
Thank you. Good to go?
I have one final question. When I told a friend that I was coming to this today, he asked, and I realized that you're not an expert on all the various different tribes, but you are familiar with Pomo and Miwok. And his question was, were the languages separate or were they able to talk to one another?
So if you think about Spanish, Italian, and French, there's some overlap there. Pomo and Kosmiwak do have some similar dialect, but some of the words are different. Some of the pronunciation is the same, but there was and still is a lot of intermingling and marrying between the two, right? Because Pomo's very close with Kosmiwak territory wise, right? And so you still see a lot of that, but there's definitely some overlap. There's definitely some differences. Pomo specifically, there's like I want to say 9, maybe more different dialects. There's like a northern area. There's all these different areas, and the words change as you shift areas, and some of the languages are kind of lost. So it's kind of fragmented with other words, if that makes any sense. But there's There's some similarities for sure.
Okay, thank you. Let's give Christina a round of applause. That concludes our program for today. Thank you so much for attending here in the room and online. And stay tuned for next month. What's it going to be next month, Gary? Yeah, our membership